Welcome back, and today we are going to be taking a look at the X-4 missiles mounted on the Focke 190 F-8. In the Task Force update, this of course got some keyboard controlled guided missiles at 5.0, and while this might sound diabolical, and in a way it kinda is, they are truly a bit of a gimmick. And while the flight time is pretty substantial, it's mostly because it's propelled by a literal hairdryer. They are incredibly slow and should basically only be used against bombers. But what's the fun in that? So we are gonna be also shooting at fighters, of course, and we are just gonna be playing the plane while we do so. This is not going to be a guide on the Focke 190 F-8 in the slightest, because I'm mostly trying to optimize using the X-4s and just showing you some highlights along the way. The missiles are pretty tedious to aim. It slightly drops, it's incredibly slow, and the max range is about 5 kilometers on the deck. Now if you go head on, you can shoot it at about a kilometer or 6 depending on your altitude. I try to just shoot within 6 kilometers, and it basically always reaches them. And at the start of the game, when people are climbing AFK, or they're just not paying attention, or perhaps just they don't expect to be hit by a missile from 5 kilometers out. So when they fly perfectly straight, a fighter becomes pretty easy to hit. The issue starts to arise when they start maneuvering, because even a B-17, if dodging properly, will be able to dodge this missile if you don't outright predict where he is going to be. It's rather sluggish, it's not a Nord, and while it does have a proxy fuse, it is still also not a Nord. The proxy range is about 6 meters, and you do have to get it within that range in order to actually nuke someone out of the sky. Be warned, if you get it too far away from someone at the absolute limit of 6 to 7 meters, it might just give you a hit or a crit, so it's really important to get it as close to the enemy as you possibly can. And while this is easier said than done, I'm just telling you what you should do. I'm not pretending like I can do this very reliably. We have ripjawz and Razor in the background also using these X-4s, and they are just a lot better at it, so I'll include a little bit of a montage at the very end, while I'll also give you some instructions on actually how to use it. It's pretty simple to use. The issue is that a lot of you guys probably just don't have the keybinds anymore to have another set of controls, especially if you are playing on the controller. These missiles are gonna be a bit of an issue. The way I use them is by simply shooting it ahead of the enemy, and then I try to keep the flare or the burner of the actual motor over the plane until it finally connects. It's a little bit tricky, especially with the parallax going on, as you are not flying directly at your opponent. Very often it's so slow that you think you've already hit, while it's actually still in front of them, or you've already passed them. Now here, A6M going slowly, we just shoot the X-4 off. This is of course not ideal, I can just use my guns, but I just thought it would be funny as he's chasing Razor, and when he tries to dodge, it's a little bit too late, or he just doesn't input enough. So we guide it in a little bit to the right, and it blows him straight out of the air. Hitting people with a missile is incredibly satisfying, of course. Hit a little bit of an energy trap in the meantime on the A7, and we just work our way down and clean up the rest of the game. Is this great gameplay that looks incredibly interesting? No, but the missile definitely is, and I do think that gimmick weapons like these have great function in this game. They are pretty annoying to use, they're pretty easy to defeat, and they still add a little bit of a layer or something new to the game. Sure, it's not a Nord, but shooting these kind of missiles at actual props is pretty fun to me. Shoot at the J2M, we miss, and I wasn't actually trying to shoot the second one off, but at this point it's already in the air, so we might as well try to guide it in. I'm not even looking at the people below me, because I want to gore this Yak 3 of the French variety, and you might want to ask Glitched in my server how much that thing costs when it isn't on sale. He notches to the right. Unfortunately, he didn't bring any chaff, and it slams him right out of the lobby. But we now have a J2M5 on our 6, and while I'm playing for the X-4s, I don't have any anymore. So now we are actually going to go into plane mode. We are now looking only at the plane, and I see the Puromursky. I don't want to deal with him. Luckily, Razor comes from the heavens and absolutely disassembles him. I want to reverse the J2M2 or J2M5 at high speed. I know that he isn't very likely to hit me with those far spread out 30 mils, so I just think about reversing him, but Razor distracts him, and because of that I am now on his 6. But the A21 shows up, and I'm not letting this guy get on my 6 for free, so we kind of turn out for a second, we disassemble his plane, and then we continue on to chase Razor in order to help him with the J2M5. Does Razor need help? Probably not. I asked him about the smoke, but he actually has chat turned off and he popped it before I managed to ask, so I am just gonna send it after him. In retrospect, it definitely wasn't required. But I'm just waiting for the J2M5 here to go vertical. The second he does, we just pull in, and just like that, we are gonna get the freest shot of the century. Just some 13 mils, and he gets sent straight back to the Shadow Realm. First guy there misses his missile, we turn around, and this is the actual use of the missile, because people do need to still actually dodge whenever you shoot at them. We look up at the LA7, we shoot a little bit higher because it drops off the rail, and then we guide it in. Is this very close? Is this dangerous? Yes, it is, but it forces him to dodge the head-on that I don't want to take at this kind of an airspeed. He dodges a little bit too wildly, and he actually allows me on his 6. And now I get a pretty free position where I use my flaps, I cut my throttle, and we try to cut inside of his loop, as it looks like he's actually G-locking or perhaps compressing. We saw his wing clean off, and then we die to someone else, but that's besides the point. B-17 climbing straight in, it's the same thing over and over again. We guide in the missile, we look at Razor, guide his, unfortunately he misses, keep track of my own missile, almost forget about it, we pull it straight in, and we blast him into smithereens. And now we're again out of missiles, but I'm trying to actually die as quickly as possible, or at least make these matches go as fast as humanly possible. So what do? We rush straight into the enemy pack. Are we gonna hit this missile? It depends on them. If they are gonna be dodging, then probably not, but this A6M looks to be flying perfectly straight. We guide it in, and as it gets close, he gets petrified, as you should, and we hit absolutely nothing. Try to connect it to the P51, not really able to. We dodge the A6M, then we force the head on with the other one, that's going awfully slow. Get a severe, absolutely perfect, and then we keep on going straight for the P51. And while I'm flying it suicidally, I'm still gonna play it somewhat smart, so the second I see those rounds coming out, I dodge, unfortunately just a tad too late, and I got my engine busted. So what do we do now? Now we're really gonna go suicidal mode, because there's no reason to try to keep this plane in the air when you don't really have a plane left. P51 turns around, I already damaged him, we use the flaps here, try to pull around as quick as possible, lay a fat burst into him, dodge last second anyway, and he gets also sent to the Shadow Realm. A6M above us, as well as one coming in. Do we need to kill these guys? Yeah, otherwise we die, but I'm just gonna send it after them and try to pull them as low as humanly possible. And notice the other one coming in. This is not a great idea, but the A6M5 is just too maneuverable to really do anything about, so we are just gonna dive out and roll them as low to the deck as possible. He broke off a little bit too soon, giving me a bit more room than he should have, and now I'm able to actually reverse the other one. He's going way too fast, so we roll on over, we try to go for the reversal, but he peels off and goes straight vertical, so there is no chance for me in ever catching that, especially with the damage that I've already sustained. Dodge the head-on when the C205, pull in last second. I'm really just looking to take as many people with me as I possibly can, use the compression of the Zero to roll out of the way, and I'm actually looking pretty good. We have the P59 who overshoots, A6M gets absolutely torn apart, and then we go for the F-82 in another lobby. We shoot it at him, we overshoot, and I thought it wasn't connecting yet, but it's actually already past him, so I stuck in that head-on just slightly too long. And this is another use of this missile. After someone passes you, especially when you push forward so hard, you might have a bit of time until the F-82 goes head-on with someone. So I thought, let's just shoot it from behind. Now, unfortunately, he's actually going to be paying attention, and there's no way I'm ever hitting this. Now, you can tell I'm thinking here, there's no way this guy is going to see this, he's not going to dodge it, but then he looks backwards, he starts rolling around, I overcorrect, and then he pulls very hard to one side, and that missile is never going to be tracking it. This thing is not a SRAM. So what do? We keep on going for the F-82, I'm catching him for now. However, I-225 shows up, what do? We go into plane mode, and we just pitch straight up. We open up the loop by going slightly wider, and because of that we now have enough room to drop directly on top of him if he tries to follow me up. The I-225 is a monster at low speeds, but if you have enough distance and enough energy, you can simply just pull open the loop and drop down directly behind it. Guns are absolutely atrocious, but eventually it disassembles his plane enough to the point where he needs to go back to the hangar. Decal in the description. So now we're just diving in and we're just looking for some free targets as we clean out this match. We're going pretty fast and we're just gonna wait for this Yak 3 to pass under us, and then we loop on over and solidify ourselves directly on his 6. Now he sees me last second, but he's a bit too slow, so we take his wingtip off. And then we try to pull back in, but he's pulling into us, and I'm just gonna disengage and go down on the I-225. And yes, I know exactly what I just said. He gets very close to us, we get some shots in, and after missing half my ammo, we're gonna send him straight to the Shadow Realm. In order to use these missiles, you need to set up one thing. It's the fire key, of course. It's the fire secondary weapons, fire air-to-air missile. I'm not entirely sure which one of the two it is. Just make sure that you set it up. And then you want to make sure that you are able to control the missile. And I use the arrow keys on my keyboard. Now if you type in aim or scroll down in the weaponry department until you see this right here. It's over the laser designator in case you are using a different language, for example. And under fuel dumping, you just want to set it up like this. Don't turn on relative control, it will mess you up, because if you press the key, it will remember the 5% input, and then it will continuously pull, making it much harder to control. Whereas with the keyboard controls, you will have to input 100% or 0%, but this makes it a lot easier to fine-tune it for the final guidance path of the missile. And it really is just that easy. This also goes for bullpups, it goes for Nords, and it goes for a lot of the keyboard controlled missiles. You just want to set them up just like this. The dead zone, the non-linearity, and the multiplying correction, you can mess with that yourself, but I preferred whatever I have set up right here. And now to wrap up the video, I have some clips from ripjawz, who played this plane a hell of a lot more than I did. And I think having a little bit of a highlight reel on these missiles to finish up the video is always nice to see. Thank you all for watching. Enjoy the montage from ripjawz, link in the description for his channel, and I'll see you in the next one.
The enemy's getting closer to victory.